If it's not in the frame, it doesn't exist. Welcome to the Mind Your Movies podcast. This is episode 10, and our topic is movies about movies. So we'll be talking about State and Maine and Shadow of the Vampire, both from the year 2000, both about making movies. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it'll be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm Ryan.
Oh, yeah. I'm Shane. That's my name.
And this is the Mind Your Movies podcast. Um, yeah, these both I think have like similar vibes and kind of what I was
Yeah.
looking for with the movies about movies.
Yeah, we could have gone a lot of different directions with it, but these are specifically about the act of making the movie. It's not necessarily about Hollywood or about actors like outside of that or anything like that. So I think it was a good pairing. And yeah, we'll get into it. Before we get into it, if you're watching on YouTube, I am wearing an Americatronic t-shirt. Some friends of mine from college are making a movie. So I thought it was fitting to
Whoa.
wear this on the Movies About Movies uh, episode because we're a podcast about movies, uh, about movies, I guess.
Wait, that is awesome. And
Yeah.
we've got to watch that when it comes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
That'll have
they're
to
still
be
they're still in pre-production. So I got
okay.
the t-shirt from their like Indiegogo, I think it was Indigo, whatever, the crowdfunding they did.
Mm.
And I got funded and they're in the pre-production process now. So pretty cool. They have like an Instagram page if anyone wants to
Ooh,
go look it up. It's Americatronic. That's the name of the movie.
nice.
Or that's will be the name of the movie once it exists. But
That's pretty awesome. We'll put a
yeah,
link in the description for our podcast and YouTube videos. So, yeah, if you're interested, we'll drop a link and follow them too. That's awesome.
cool. I figured I'd give them a shout out.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, all right. Well, I guess before we get into our main movies that we're covering today, uh, we should probably get into what we've watched recently. And if you want, I can start. Um, so the Oscar nominees were recently announced, and I found a little short film through that. It's nominated for Best Live Action Short. It's called I'm Not a Robot, and it's oh gosh, I should have looked this up, but I think it's Danish. Or no, it's Dutch. I think it's Dutch. I don't know. It's something like that. Um, but uh, it's 22 minutes long, and it's on YouTube, so anyone can go watch it. It's on the New Yorker YouTube channel, super easy to access, and yeah, it's really good. It's the basic conceit is this lady is working. She works on like music post production, it seems like, and she's in her office and she's trying to get into a program, and she can't get past the captcha. It is asking if she's a robot, and it keeps telling her that she's failing the captcha test, and so there's sort of an identity crisis of what the hell is going on, what's wrong with this, is something wrong with me, and then the movie goes from there. But really great, like dark comedy, um, just just a great movie. And that's one thing I really like about the Oscar short film categories is you can find like hidden gems that I would have never heard of this movie uh, before, but now I watched it and I loved it. So I wanted to give it a shout out. Go check it out. It's only 22 minutes long, so it's easily accessible. Check it out.
That's awesome. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I've actually been down a like shorts rabbit hole for a specific reason, but it capstoned with the 2017 um, Gondry short Detour. It's 11 minutes long. It's this one. I think like, Apple actually put it out because it's made on an iPhone back in 2017. This was like an iPhone 7 Plus or whatever they had at the time, right? And it's about like a tricycle that goes missing on a family road trip in France, and you follow the tricycle's little adventure. It falls in a stream and whatever, right? And it's a really cute, really fun little short that's filmed on an iPhone. And it was the capstone of for a few weeks, I prepared a 2-day, 6-hour a day class for my school where I taught about the origin of film. So on day one, we went through all sorts of really early stuff, including the first Lumiere brothers showing. So we watched all the projections, the 10 projections they showed that first time. We also watched a lot of George Méliès and Edwin Porter, Lee Blanchet, right? A lot of like really early names in film. Pretty much stopping like right as we enter narrative films with Alice Guy Blanchet and Edwin Porter. We introduced The Cut, and then day two we watched Detour, and then we filmed our own short film on an iPhone. So a bunch of middle school and high school students. Um, we don't have a GoFundMe or anything for this one, but it was very fun to make with the kids. So yeah, that was a blast. So I've got a ton of shorts on my letterboxd from the past couple days, and it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
That is awesome. That's really cool that you did that, and also it fits our theme of making movies, and that's really cool. I remember as a kid, I had a little camcorder, and we would make little. They were more like sketches, I guess, almost like a YouTube sketch. We would do that, but yeah, that's fun to do that and sort of expose kids to different ways that they can express themselves and all that.
Definitely, it was a ton of fun. It was a really small like a small class that could really get into it with the discussions on the films and then eventually the planning and making of the movie. So it was great.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, as far as what else I've watched recently, I guess the last movie I watched is this Czech sci-fi movie from the 60s called Ikari XB1. In the US it was called something else. I think it's called like Voyage to the Voyage something. I don't remember. I should look it up, I guess. But it's it's Voyage to the End of the Universe. That's what it was called. But Ikari XB1 is the name of the ship, and it's came out in 1963, so it's between sort of like 50s sci-fi like Day the Earth Stood Still and stuff like that, and 2001: A Space Odyssey and like Solaris and stuff like that. So it really is kind of a bridge between those two types of sci-fi, and it was really good. It was there were moments that were like pretty incredible, but then there were also parts that were like, oh, this is the cheesy 50s kind of influence. So it's kind of an interesting bridge between those two eras, in my opinion. But it's on the Criterion channel. And I think it was worth watching. It's only like 88 minutes long. So it is pretty cool. I watched a bunch of movies this week. So I'm not going to go over every single one, but I also liked Conclave. Finally got around to seeing it. It's streaming on Peacock, and it was really good. It it was twisty and turny, and it kept my attention, and it was very well shot, very well made, good performances, very really solid movie. So yeah,
Nice. I also have just watched like a ton of stuff this week and last. So as always, you can find our letterboxes to see all of our things, but I'll close off with a couple of maybe kind of similar vibes. Um, uh, actually, well, yeah. So I watched the 1959 Attack of the Giant Leeches, which was the last part of the Kowalski trilogy made by Bernard Kowalski, financed by Roger Corman. So that's why it's a trilogy. They're actually not connected, but they were all made for Roger Corman, and they're very low budget, and they're like swampy movies filmed in Florida. And it's pretty bad, but honestly, I am a sucker for like the cheap special effects. There's like people clearly in like semi-modified either like black raincoats or just trash bags with like stuff attached to make them look like giant leeches, I suppose. And it was pretty awesome. Don't
nice.
it's 62 minutes and it's like free on YouTube everywhere. So like I would say it's worth the hour, but I wouldn't quite expect, something like conclave level or like The Brutalist, which is the other kind of maybe big film that I've watched recently. And The Brutalist was a brutal movie. Not only because it was 3.5 hours long, but but also it is a very intense movie. Have you had the chance to see it, Shane?
Mm-mm,
No.
I have not.
That makes sense. It's like it's like an eighth of your day, so it is a lot to sit through.
Yeah, with the
Um,
intermission, that's like a sixth of your day.
yeah,
It's like
yep,
3.5 hours plus intermission plus I mean, if there's trailers, I mean, come on.
yeah. Um, it is an event, but
Yeah.
it was pretty awesome. It was hard not to really feel that movie. And frankly, like I'm a short movie person for the most part, but this movie did not feel. I think the intermission helped, but it did not feel as long as other things that I've seen recently. That maybe, for example, this is gonna be controversial, but Wicked. I didn't hate Wicked. I liked Wicked, but I would say somehow that movie felt longer than this. I think
Probably
the
because it wasn't
intermission
as
helped a
good.
lot. Yeah, that does it,
And it
right?
was only half a movie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's
Mhm.
a big part of it, right? And there's all these like unfinished plot points by the end because they're taking your money again later on, right? So, um, uh, and I didn't know the music. I know that if you know the music for Wicked, it's like more exciting and eventful. Um, but so I don't know. I mean, honestly, it is hard to make the time out of your day for like 4 hours in the theater if you're gonna sit through the trailers and stuff. But it was pretty worth it. I mean, I live right next to the theater, so there's no travel time at least. But
Huh.
um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
wasn't
it was
sure
awesome.
where you saw it or if you saw it because I know there have been special screenings and
Oh yeah,
on film and I think in IMAX as well. I think it's screening in IMAX in Providence now.
yeah,
Um, so I've thought about going, but it's hard to fit in the schedule. Um,
yeah. I did see it on digital IMAX, so a smaller IMAX. It's the one right at the AMC. It is that 70 millimeter at like a few places in the city. But with like going somewhere for 20 minutes and then coming back, like that's just adding almost another hour to the event. And I was,
yeah,
yeah, no.
yeah, that's fair. But you
um,
like the movie. It was
yes.
good. It matched your expectations, sort of. It's getting a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
buzz, obviously.
It is. Also, one really interesting thing is it's shot on VistaVision, but they also it seems like they like ran it through the projector a few times. Like they ran the master through the projector a few times to get some like natural film grain and texture to it. Because watching it on IMAX, and it wasn't film, but watching it on IMAX, you still got a lot of like artifacts that you would get from film, and which makes me think they must have like run it through a few times to get some burns in there or something. So that was kind of nice. Uh,
Yeah,
it didn't
nice.
feel like fake, cheap film grain, obviously. So that was cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Well, maybe before we get started, we could mention The Brutalist got 10 Oscar nominations.
Woo!
However, it was only beat out by Amelia Perez with 13 Oscar nominations. Have you seen Amelia Perez yet? Have you seen the backlash online? I mean, it's getting, I mean, the backlash is intense.
It's crazy to me. I have not seen the movie yet. So it's hard to really judge it, I suppose. But I mean, it wasn't one that I really thought looked good when it came out. I didn't really invest a lot of time or effort or energy thinking about it, and I would say I was very surprised when the nominations came out, and
Mm.
much of it I thought was pretty understandable. I haven't seen Conclave, but I've heard great things, right? And I know that got a few nominations. The Brutalist, The Wild Robot, right? There was like some stuff that I expected maybe or was happy to see up there. Even Flow, that was cool to see up there. And I would not have bet on Amelia Perez making
Yeah.
such a wave there.
Well, it did very well at like the Golden Globes and a lot of other award things, and so I don't know. It's just it's interesting. Like some critics and people in the industry seem to really love it, but everyone online just hates it. Um, I did not like the movie.
You've seen it.
Um, I have seen it. I watched it months ago. I've seen almost all of Jacques Audiard's movies. This is like definitely his worst in my opinion. But it's also nothing like any of his other movies. Like it's very just random that he did this. Um, but yeah, the backlash has gotten so bad that I almost feel bad for it now. I'm like, it's not the worst movie ever made. I mean, geez, like it's not very. But then all when you see it got so many nominations and took up like I don't know for it to be up for best director instead of like Denis Villeneuve or something. It's kind of crazy. But it's just whatever. It's the Oscars. It doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
it was definitely a surprise that it got that many nominations for sure.
Yeah. I think this kind of goes back to what you were saying about the good thing about the Oscars is that it can expose new things that people may not have seen. And this is kind of a downside of it because when one movie takes up 13 nominations, and even The Brutalist taking up 10, like that's a lot of spaces for diversity to be shown, right? For new things that people might not have seen. But
Yeah,
oh well.
especially when it's Amelia Perez. It's not
Yes.
deserving of much of those nominations, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm sure people worked very hard on it, and good for them. All right, well, I guess that's that for what we've watched recently and what's been going on. So I guess we should get into our main part of the episode. We'll do State and Madow of the Vampire. That's the name of the episode.
Easy.
So we'll start with State and Maine. This was my pick. This is came out in the year 2000, same as Shadow of the Vampire, and it's written and directed by David Mamet, uh, prolific, playwright and screenwriter, and now kind of controversial figure, I guess. But yeah, he this is it's about a production of a movie in Vermont and all the craziness that goes along with it. Maybe we can just start before we get into it too much. Like, what did you think overall? How'd you feel about the movie?
I liked it. I think not all of the humor hit with me, but I thought there was enough there that I enjoyed with the humor, and I just kind of enjoyed some of the drama aspects and whatnot too. So I think overall it really worked for me, even though not all the humor did.
I get that. I agree with that. I think I think it was good. It's not like my favorite David Mamet. Like it's not like Glengarry Glen Ross or anything like that. But not he didn't direct that, but he wrote it. Um, but yeah, I think it's an interesting depiction of Hollywood from sort of the inside. Like David Mamet had been working in Hollywood as like a screenwriter and a director for like over 10 years at this point. So I think looking back on this movie, I mean, we'll get into it more, but like, especially after the Me Too movement, it's like this movie was almost like waving a flag of like, hey, Hollywood's kind of fucked up. These people are awful. So I think that's kind of interesting. And Shadow of the Vampire also has to do with filmmakers being selfish and the negative aspect to that. So that's kind of a connection between the movies. But I think in State and Maine, it's very, very much about that.
Yeah, and I think when I was watching through it, I didn't expect that, and as things were happening, I was like, "How did this movie get made?" Um,
Yeah.
not that it's bad, like that's not a bad thing, right? Calling things out should be uh how like what we do, but I'm surprised that people paid for it. I mean, Hollywood paid for a Hollywood movie that calls out Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah, true. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty crazy cast too. It has a bunch of stars in it. It's got Alec Baldwin, who plays the Bob Berenger, who's the star of the movie and also a into underage girls. Philip Seymour Hoffman plays Joseph Turner White, who's the writer of the movie and seems like kind of a David Mamet stand-in. Like he's kind of our moral center, not moral center, but like the character that I think we're supposed to identify with the most. I don't know if he's the protagonist because the movie shifts around to different characters so much. It's really like an ensemble piece, but he really has like he has the moral quandary and he's kind of supposed to be the most identifiable character for the audience, I think. Um, and then there's Clark Gregg. William H. Macy plays Waltz, the director. Sarah Jessica Parker plays the female lead of the movie. Well, of the movie within the movie. But, and yeah, David Paymer gives a really great performance as an asshole producer. And Julia Stiles is in it. And yeah, a bunch of really great character actors that, you'd recognize. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. It has this amazing cast, and uh, it is so kind of anti-Hollywood. I wonder if at the time people kind of just would just laugh at it and not take it as seriously, but maybe in retrospect, like looking at it from our perspective, we're more able to uh, look at the story and what happens in it and be like, this is almost an expose.
Yeah, now that like so much more is public, I guess, about
Yeah,
like it's not just fiction, right? And now we see that.
yeah. And so much of this is really about like open secrets in Hollywood. Like even at the very beginning of the movie, like everyone knows that Bob Berenger is into 14-year-old girls. There was a big scandal about it. Everyone knows it, and no one cares. And then by the end of the movie, they're actively trying to cover it up and trying to help him get away with it in any way possible, just so that they can keep making their movie, keep making their money. Um, and it's a very cynical, but also realistic, I think. It just seems like this is a thing that would happen, sadly enough. But yeah,
Yeah.
but
Also, real
also,
quick,
yeah,
someone else that's in this movie that I was surprised by and had to like readjust to was Clark Gregg, who plays uh, an attorney, I think, in this, but
he's a politician.
politician, right?
He's like
But
coded Republican, it
yeah,
seems.
but in he's like big in the MCU, at least in the early stages of the MCU. He's one of the Agent Coulson of Shield, and back when like Marvel movies were less of a long like a feature length TV show where you have to watch everything, but and he has
He,
such a recognizable voice that it's hard to like disassociate him with that. I know he's been in other stuff too, but it was kind of funny to see him in this.
yeah, yeah, I get that for sure. But yeah, I mean, also we are talking about how this movie is about all this fucked up stuff, but also it's a comedy. Like it's pretty funny
Yes.
throughout. It's definitely dark humor. It has that sort of trademark David Mamet dialogue of being very snappy and quick and acerbic. You know, it's biting. It's kind of seems like I think he's sort of a contemporary of Tarantino and Aaron Sorkin, maybe, or maybe an influence to Aaron Sorkin. I know The West Wing was in like the late '90s, I think, but yeah. So it has that type of dialogue, and I think it works really well with sort of the chaos of the set. Like the very beginning of the movie is very much putting us in the director Walt's shoes, and all these people are coming at him. And what do you think about the costumes? And oh, I lost my typewriter, so I can't update the screenplay. And the actor's doing this, and he has to meet the mayor, and like just that part of the experience of being a director of all these people just asking you a million questions, and you just have to manage the chaos. I think it like portrays that really well. And often in like long shots where we're sort of just tracking with Walt and people are coming in and out, and it does make for a very entertaining like and engaging way to get you into the movie and into the mindset of what it's like on a set, I think.
Yeah, and also half the time he's like on the phone too. And so sometimes you'll like have him talking to multiple people while also on the phone where you only hear half the conversation. And keeping up with everything is chaotic, right? And there's times when someone might say something and you might almost miss it. And it seems like he does too almost because he just kind of brushes it off, right? But he's just, everything gets a quick response, right? Um, and I'm sure there's stuff that if you watch through it again, uh, maybe you had missed that is actually a bigger piece later on that is easy to miss because there's just so much quick dialogue and chaotic and quick dialogue.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, and sort of before we get to, I mean, Bob Berenger is not on set at the beginning of the movie. And there's sort of a few things that happen, like moral conundrums, I guess, that happen throughout the movie. And the first one is Claire, who's played by Sarah Jessica Parker. She agreed in her contract to do a nude scene, but she doesn't want to do it. And this is like you can tell that Walt is kind of an asshole, but you're not necessarily against him. Um, but this scene also, I think Hmm. It's interesting how he will say anything to get what he wants, basically. That's really the key of the character.
Yeah, and he says it to anyone, right? Like he'll say one thing and then go inside that room to talk to her, and he says something totally different to her. And then when he leaves, someone outside is saying essentially something that he was saying earlier, and she overhears it and gets upset again, and he's mad at that guy now. And like that happens a lot where he says something, and then even with the writer has to tell, he makes the writer tell uh, uh, Sarah Jessica Parker why they're not doing a scene at the old mill anymore, even though it's his decision. Well, kind of his decision. There is no old mill, but he
Yeah,
forces Joe, the writer, into that weird situation,
yeah,
and there's just all these situations where he does that, where he's just kind of going against what he had said earlier, and it's really just clear that he's just saying whatever's best for him in the moment.
yeah, exactly. I think that is a trademark of like David Mamet screenplays where people are lying and cheating and being just scumbags. And frankly, it's kind of fun to watch. It just makes things engaging and there's multiple layers to everything. And you realize, oh, he was lying in this previous scene or this contradicts that. And it kind of makes things engaging for the audience. But also, I think it's kind of a reflection of how some people operate in just the world, especially in a place like Hollywood where and I think a lot of people in positions of power, like they get there through sort of by any means necessary.
Yeah, manipulation, lying,
Yes.
scheming at times, right? Just like
Yeah.
what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, when it comes to like people and there is an element like it is there is an element of Sarah Jessica Parker at a certain point, her character wants more money in order to do the nude scene. So then how much of her emotional turmoil about it is real and how much of it is her just trying to get some more money to do it. Um, so really like no one in the movie, I mean, the only character I think in the movie who is really presented as a 100% good person is Anne, I believe is the name of the character.
Mm.
She's like a local bookseller and she also like directs plays at the local theater. Um, and she's really presented as like the only good person and she's also not in Hollywood, right? Like everyone else is like in Hollywood and they're kind of assholes in one way or another, or Clark Gregg plays the politician who's like a total asshole, and really the people outside of Hollywood, the more average people, are definitely presented as more morally upstanding.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because this movie is really um it's really this, state and Main, right? Sounds like, well, it is like this intersection, right, of State Street and Main Street. And the movie in a way feels a lot like an intersection of kind of that the more like local people like Anne and all these people that you just see on the street that are all super kind and stuff, right? And then the Hollywood kind of train wreck of a crew who all lie to each other and all this stuff, right? Or just get mistreated by each other and stuff. So that weird intersection that makes for interesting dynamics, but also it leads for our main character, well, whatever, Joe, the writer, to end up kind of diverging off of the Hollywood path potentially, and um, uh, kind of getting together with Ant, which is kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah, that is a good point. I will say if there is anything maybe that's an issue with this movie is that it has so many subplots that some of them can feel rushed or and one of them is like Anne is engaged to Clark Gregg's character, who's the politician, and they never seem to have chemistry at all. So it's kind of confusing why they're even together in the first place. They seem so different. But also then she pretty quickly dumps him because she met Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, and they connect so much because they're both, artistic and into theater and writing and all that. And it makes sense why they would. It felt like an unnecessary thing to have them engaged um, when it didn't feel like the characters had any chemistry in the first place. And then if they were engaged, you wouldn't think you'd break up with your partner that you're engaged with because you met someone like 2 days ago that you like.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's one of like the main things that I actually wrote down at the beginning of the film is that I felt like that was such a quick and like awkward dynamic change of having them shift like that. And there was really no repercussion of the breakup, I guess. I thought it was going to play a bigger role in why um, Clark Gregg's character like disliked the crew and the movie, but it kind of gets revealed like he just ends up wanting money and
Well, he's
like
old, and from the beginning of the movie, he always hates them because they're
yeah,
Hollywood. And he's definitely coded as conservative, and there is that sort of middle America Republican versus like coastal elite. There is that element in there, and he already hates them. He doesn't need oh my God, the writer from the movie stole my girlfriend. Now that's why I hate him. Like he
right.
he already hated them from the beginning, so it's kind of an unnecessary like double beat there for his
Yeah.
character.
And there was also one point when the writer Joe and Anne are like in the rain under this like right at the opening of a door or something, right? So they're not like actually in the rain, but they're outside. And like a cop comes over or something and is like, "Oh, do you want to like can I walk you home because you don't have an umbrella?" And when he was walking over, I thought that there was going to be like a big drama scene of like, "Oh, the guy that you this is the Hollywood writer that you left, but like it just never comes back up and it just felt pretty unnecessary. I agree.
Yeah. And I don't think it's that much like it's sort of like a D plot or E plot. Like it's really not a big part of the movie, but it's just that they have so many of these subplots. But
Yeah.
really the main thing that's going on is uh Bob Berenger, played by Alec Baldwin. He has had a scandal where he was with a 14-year-old girl in the past, but I think he was acquitted or charged or dropped or whatever. And so he comes to set, and Carla, played by Julia Stiles, is a high school student, and she like works at the coffee shop or diner, and she sort of pursues him. And long story short, they get into a car crash, and uh, Philip Seymour Hoffman is there, and he's the only witness to the crash. So, Bob Berenger tells Carla, just you need to get out of here. You were never here, whatever. So no one realizes that she was with him, so he doesn't get in trouble. And then ultimately, Joseph Turner White, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, the writer, he has to make a decision of whether to tell the truth or not tell the truth at the end of the movie. And this was another part where something kind of crazy happens because he goes into a courtroom and he lies. Well, we actually don't see it. But he swears, you know, under oath, and then it cuts away, and he's walking away, and he is guilty, and Anne comes up to him, and he just has a guilty look on his face, and we realize, that he lied, and he defended Bob Berenger. And then as he's going to the train to leave the town, and he just happens by coincidence to run into the actual judge, and he hears that the courthouse was burned down at the same time the old mill was burned down. And so he's like, what? This doesn't make any sense. So he goes back, and it turns out Anne has staged an entire court proceeding in the school gymnasium in order to trick him because she knew he was going to lie and defend this guy and then feel bad about it. And then he would tell the truth during the real court proceeding. And that was one of the most convoluted and just like ridiculous plot points that did not need to be there at all. I don't know. That was just crazy.
Yeah. That
Just
was it
just
was so
ridiculous.
strange. And I feel like there's so many different ways that could have gone, and I was expecting it to go, and this was not at all my list of ideas when he was like walking away depressed because he lied, right? Or yeah. Uh my list of ideas had nothing to do with the courtroom being fake. Um,
No.
uh, like there's really no build up to that. So not that
Well,
like
the only buildup is that she runs the theater, and so she knows people that can act in the
yeah
town. All the
yeah.
locals can act.
Um, but it was so weird to like to for them to like essentially retcon. It felt like they were just retconning him doing that, which I know that's not what was happening because it's written out in the movie, but it felt so strange to just like get the rug pulled out of you like that. Like um it also felt like it meant less for him to do that, which I guess is the point. But you know, he's supposed to be this
Yeah,
like moral it's supposed to be this main moral
I
conflict, and he ends up doing the wrong thing, but there's no repercussion.
yeah, I wouldn't mind it if he did lie. I think that would have made sense, and it's like I'm fine with having the main character be like morally confused and do the wrong thing sometimes. I think that's interesting, and
Mhm.
but I don't know. It's like it was just completely unbelievable to me. Like this has gone into La La Land, you know.
Yeah,
So that was another part of the movie that did not work for me. But
yeah,
but
I
yeah,
can agree with that.
yeah, and then by the end, so there is also an element where really all the confusing, or not confusing, but convoluted aspects of the story, they do all come together at the end where uh, Sarah Jessica Parker's character wanted $800,000 to show her boobs, and they're like, get the money here, get it somehow. And another producer shows up at the end with a bag of $800,000. And in order to save Bob Berenger and get his case dropped, David Paymer, the scumbag producer, who's incredible, we'll talk about him later, but he gives Clark Gregg, the politician, a bag filled with $800,000, and he takes it. And instead of trashing the movie on TV, he says, "Oh, it's a fine, upstanding American institution," and all this stuff while he's holding the bag. And I like that of just showing how selfish and shitty politicians are. So I thought that was nice. Um, and
Yeah,
I thought that was more believable and kind of a satisfying resolution of all those different aspects of the story.
I completely agree. I thought that was pretty cool. And when at first when they got the money, and of course Joe had made it so they didn't actually need the money to pay her off because he changed the script so that uh, you know the Bob Berenger would see uh, her take off her shirt, but the audience wouldn't, right? And so I thought they were going to give him the money and be like, "You got to lie, you got to perjure still," you know, like. But that would have been maybe a more interesting moral thing for him still. But I also like them just throwing it at the politician and being like, you know, he doesn't have a moral like obligation to say no, right? He just wants the money, so easy.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. But yeah, I mean, we did mention David Paymer, and I think he's incredible in this movie. Like he shows up maybe 45 minutes in, 30 minutes in, something like that, and he's just like a spark of life to the movie. I mean, a lot of the performances are really great. William H. Macy is great. Philip Seymour Hoffman obviously is great. Um, and really everyone in the whole cast. It's just a very well acted, well directed movie. But his character is just such an asshole. He just tells people off, and he uh it's just entertaining, and yeah, I think he's just great. I don't know if I
Yeah,
have much else to say about it other than that.
yeah. But there's also some interesting like the way that he played a lawyer was really interesting because and he's like this corporate lawyer, right? He's not all lawyers are necessarily like this, but he was like this kind of quick talking and like easy to manipulate what people are saying, right? When he is confronting Joe about having seen the crash, he's like, "Well, how do you know you saw it?" Right? And Joe's like, I watched the crash happen, right? He's like, yeah, well, like I'm just saying maybe you didn't. Like what glasses were you wearing, right? And all this stuff. And he's like immediately like you probably couldn't see that well in your reading glasses. And so the way that he just like quickly talks and forces the the like the outcome that he wants in a situation is is very like telling of how some lawyers can be, or at least how I interpret some lawyers, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Corporate lawyers.
Yeah. And I don't know, was he just a I thought he was a producer on the movie and also a lawyer maybe? And maybe he's
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
is that what it is? Okay, yeah.
I think so.
And
Yeah.
then at the end he's like, "Oh, I'm representing Bob Parent and Charity." Yeah.
Yeah. I think he is a producer, but I think that and maybe he wasn't even a lawyer, but he certainly said he was, but also
Who
could
knows?
just yeah, you know,
Yeah,
I,
that's true.
it never goes to an actual courtroom. So,
Yeah. True. That's a good point.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, one other thing that I did not like about the movie, I don't know if we're being too negative. I did like the movie. It was overall very good, but I thought the music was kind of not good. I found it like pretty overbearing and unnecessary in a lot of scenes. And I don't know if it was an element of like trying to balance the tone where like I don't know. There were multiple scenes where I was like, oh, you could have just took this song completely out of it, and it would have been better for it. Like, there's the scene that you were talking about Philip Seymour Hoffman and Anne in the rain, when they're
yeah,
inside her like uh bookstore. There's like music playing, and it's almost like whimsical or like more comedic music. And it just didn't really seem to fit the scene. And overall, it's just kind of the music just seems a little bit like just generic 90s slash 2000s like comedy music. I don't know. Like it just seemed unnecessary in a lot of scenes. Anyway,
yeah. That's interesting. I actually watched this on mute with subtitles only. No, I'm just kidding.
maybe that could have been better. I don't know.
uh, I'm just kidding.
That would have been a chaotic experience just because all the people talking over each other and all you'd be like, what is happening? That would be
Yeah,
rough.
the subtitles would probably not. You probably wouldn't like catch
Oh
anything.
yeah, it'd be hard to keep
Um,
track of everything for sure.
but no, but I. It's funny because I don't think I super noticed the music though. But I definitely wouldn't say that it helped. Right, there was no times when I was like, this music is helping the scene right now. But I also don't know if I particularly noticed it as being maybe as obtuse or confrontational maybe to the scene. But um, one thing that I really enjoyed was there was like a couple of times when you could see the storyboards, and at times they were a little goofy, but like it was just I thought it was really fun to see the like sharpied out storyboards of a few of the scenes. And there's like the scene when she's gonna be taking off her shirt, right? And so there's the storyboard of that. And there was another storyboard that we see earlier on, which was I just thought those were really fun to see, like the inside look at uh, this fake film. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, definitely. And that is sort of it's maybe plot F of the movie is the cinematographer having an issue because they were going to shoot at the firehouse. They moved from New Hampshire to Vermont. So the new firehouse has a stained glass window and he can't push in through the window because of the stained glass. So he's trying to figure out the shot. He can't figure it out. And then at one point he like throws I think it's a film canister or something through the window and breaks it. And yeah, it just shows all these people are just complete selfish assholes, just complete scumbags.
Yeah.
But I think a thing with the music to
Mm.
tie it back with this is that these characters are assholes, and this movie I think is more like, let's say, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where it's funny because the characters are assholes and we're not supposed to be on their side. Like that's just part of what makes it funny and what makes it interesting. But I feel like the music was treating it as like a standard sitcom where like I don't know, like that 70s show or something like that. I don't know. Something where you're supposed to just identify with the characters and the characters are normal.
Right.
Whereas I feel like this movie is actually kind of like cynical and mean-spirited, and that's like what I really like about it. But I feel like the music was like undercutting that a little bit. Um, but anyway, I
Yeah.
yeah.
I can definitely see what you mean. I think there was kind of another element of a similar type of like uh, contortion of perhaps the intentionality of something, which was with the kind of main plot of uh, uh, Barrington being with that girl, where like the girl is really like coming onto him, and it feels like they're they're like trying to take blame off of him for the movie, and it felt like, I don't know, like it felt like a more uh realistic interpretation may have been like just having him be a little more creepy, and not that he wasn't creepy, he was creepy, but like kind of be the instigator, if that makes sense. But
I guess, but I kind of disagree. I think this is probably how this type of thing happens more often. But a normal adult, if a teenager is like trying to hit on you, you'd be like, "Oh, you're a teenager. No, this is like, you know what I mean? Like,
mm,
it's kind of normal. Like, teenagers have crushes on like their teachers or their or like older people all the time. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
when you're an adult, you obviously are like, no, you're a child. But if you're a scumbag like this guy, then he's gonna, run with it, So, and
yeah,
he's a celebrity. Like, I'm sure a lot of teenage girls would want to be with a celebrity, you know what I mean? And they don't necessarily know any better. And then people take advantage of that, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't think, I mean, I definitely see what you're saying where you could interpret it as like trying to put some responsibility away from him, but
yeah,
I still think he's like 100% in the wrong regardless, you know what I mean? Even if he's, you know, not didn't seek her out, or he's not like creeping around the middle school or whatever. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, you're totally right. He does still have 100% of the blame, but yeah, I guess, um, it did feel a little weird to me, but I can totally see what you're saying too, where, maybe that is just kind of the more, uh, like normal or like natural. I don't know, whatever. But yeah,
I mean,
uh,
because I think that is like a thing where uh it could be actors or musicians or who knows, where I don't know, it's kind of a thing in like popular culture where teenage girls will be like super fans of something, and there will be people that take advantage of that and you know are fucked up, basically the bad people. Uh, so yeah, I don't
yeah,
think it
yeah,
necessarily. I didn't interpret it as like the movie trying to absolve him of anything.
yeah.
But
Well, good. Um, yeah.
yeah,
Uh, funny little thing that happened that's totally unrelated, but there was one point when someone like nudges into the director had just written dinner with the mayor on the calendar, and someone nudges into it, and he tells them to rewrite it. And I was thinking in my head, I was like, oh, they're gonna mess this up, and then they rewrite it on the same spot. But then later on, it is revealed that
it's in the wrong day.
it's in the wrong day, which is like kind of supposed to be maybe kind of important, but then kind of really doesn't end up mattering. But um, yeah, and I was
Yeah,
like, it was so funny because I was like, oh, well, I had so much anticipation leading up to them writing on the wrong spot, and then they didn't, and then it turned out they did.
yeah, I actually noticed that same thing. Yeah, I
That
noticed
was
that.
funny.
Yeah, I think it did kind of come into play because it makes the mayor's wife hates them, and then the mayor's like, all right, we're gonna arrest this guy, maybe.
Yeah,
Does
that's
it
true.
influence them for in that way, maybe?
That's true. But then after the court, like the mayor doesn't even care anymore or whatever. Like they're able to film there, you know? So
Hmm.
it just felt like so many things in the
Yeah.
movie had such minimal repercussion, which I guess like it is a comedy, right? It's not like everything's gonna change the world, but
Yeah, I get what you mean though. That I had noticed that also. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have that much more to say about State and Maine. Overall, I thought it was very good. It wasn't like a perfect movie, but it was interesting and entertaining the whole way. I thought the cast was fantastic, and also some of the cinematography was really like simple but nice. Like I said at the beginning, with some of those tracking shots and long takes where it's not really showy, but it's using long takes to emphasize like the chaos of the set or stuff like that. So it's not super flashy filmmaking, but I think it's like very effective. And yeah, overall, I thought it was a very good movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and one thing that we haven't really mentioned, but there doesn't have to be a lot to say about it, but I thought it was well paced. I think maybe that's because there were so many of these like side plots, right? There's always something going on. And even though a lot of that maybe didn't lead up to much, it did keep you active during the whole movie. So, and all the
Yeah,
fast talking and everything, I think helps too, maybe. But
yeah, I agree, 100%. Maybe should we give our ratings? I don't know if you did the aggregate scores for these movies, but
I I do have them. Maybe I can throw that out first.
sure.
So the average for this movie on Rotten Tomatoes is 85%. The audience score there is 70%, 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb, and 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So pretty, pretty good. 85% on Rotten Tomatoes is really good. So it averages out to a 7.3 out of 10 average, which is pretty high.
Makes
Not the
sense.
highest, not anywhere near the highest that we've covered because we've covered some bangers, but that is pretty high. That's
Yeah,
definitely a reasonable movie. What'd
yeah,
you give it?
and I agree with the general consensus, I guess. Kind of just I'm a boring guy. That I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, which would be a 7 out of 10, I guess. Yeah, a really solid movie.
Nice. I gave it a 3 out of 5. But still, I mean, pretty close. I could see myself having gone to the 3.5. I was pretty close either way. But landed on 3 out of 5 instead.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact about this: this was filmed in Massachusetts, apparently.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Which is funny because I don't know. It looks like I'd believe that it was Vermont, but
Yeah,
also,
definitely. And
yeah, Western Mass
and
is
there's
kind
a
of just Vermont.
whole yeah. There's a whole controversy in the movie that they start in New Hampshire and then they have to move to Vermont because of I don't know, they couldn't access the mill in the town or the town wanted more money for them to use the mill or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
also another thing in the movie, it is funny how the movie is called The Old Mill and then they don't have the old mill, so he has to rewrite everything. And I don't know, just the way I don't know, I thought that was interesting, especially coming from David Mamet, who is primarily a writer, and just the way that uh your writing is like not necessarily cared for or like it's like well it's not in the budget like we're gonna have to figure it out and all those practical considerations come into play whereas when you're writing the screenplay it's like it's just this perfect thing and then when it comes to the practicalities of making the movie they have to make all these changes but
yeah,
but yeah so kind of cool to see a movie about movies from a Hollywood inside sort of a Hollywood insider at this time.
yeah,
um
definitely. And I thought like I think that overall it felt like a expose in a way, like we were saying at the beginning. That again, maybe it wasn't really recognized at the time as such. Like the year 2000 was a long time ago. Thinking of how much more has come out about Hollywood and all this stuff. But I feel like maybe it's a little under the radar in that sense today, where I feel like people don't necessarily talk about it in that light. But
yeah, definitely. But now on to another movie about a filmmaker being a selfish scumbag who'll do anything to make his movie. We have Shadow of the Vampire. This
that's
was
right.
your pick, so if you want to introduce it.
Yeah. This is also the year 2000. So we have a kind of an odd double 2000s uh, marathon or something here.
Double feature,
Um,
double billing.
Double feature, yeah. Written by Stephen Katz and directed by Elias Merhige. Merhige.
I have no idea how to say his name.
I don't know if I've seen anything else. I didn't even look.
I haven't. He did this movie called Begotten in I think like 89 or something, and I haven't seen it, but apparently it's supposed to be a pretty like experimental horror movie.
Oh, cool.
And then he did this, and I don't know that he's really done much else. I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah.
Merhige,
Mer
Merhige,
Merhige.
Merhige.
Merhige. I think Merhige is what I would guess, but
Actually,
I could totally be wrong. I
did you
have
know?
no idea.
Did you notice who is listed as one of the producers of this film?
It's his first production credit.
Nicolas
Nick
Cage. Hell
Cage.
yeah.
It's
Throw.
it's his production company, I think.
Oh, okay, nice. So this is a throwback to episode one, which was Nicolas Cage movies. Here we are with a Nicolas Cage produced movie.
That's
And
right.
obviously Nick Cage is a big Nosferatu and Cabinet of Dr. Caligari fanatic. So yeah, kind of cool that he was in on this to some degree.
Yeah. I think I saw somewhere that maybe he was like considering um playing Max Shriek, but I also saw somewhere that Max Shriek's role was like made for Willem Dafoe. So I don't know what to believe, but uh either way, Willem Dafoe does an amazing job here. Well, I guess I should just say the general. This is kind of a high concept movie. The idea is this is following F.W. Murnau as he's making the original 1922 Nosferatu movie, and actors are hard to get, and he wants it to be really realistic. So they go to they make it super realistic. They go to the castle. They get peasants for the village scenes, right? And of course, they get a vampire for the vampire. So this is a real vampire that plays Count Orlok. Kind of very hard to direct a vampire, it seems, during this movie.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. So
but
the
yeah, yeah,
yeah, the idea is what if Max Shrek was actually a vampire? That's the movie basically. Um
crazy.
yeah, pretty crazy idea for a movie, but pretty fun idea. I mean, Willem Dafoe is awesome. He's one of my favorite actors and he always goes for it 100%. And he's awesome in this. And he does look quite like Max Shrek. Like he has the like facial expressions and like the wide eyes and the like rat like teeth and kind of a thing. Like it's pretty well done.
Oh yeah, I feel like a lot of this movie um, feels very uh, feels very like the original. Uh, uh, Greta's actress, uh,
Catherine McCormick.
there we go. Feels she looks a lot like uh, Ellen
Yeah, Ellen.
in yeah, there we go. In Nosferatu, we've watched so much Nosferatu lately. I can't believe I don't remember the name. Um,
And Eddie Izzard plays Gustav von Wangenheim, who I remember laughing about his name when we did our Nosferatu episode. But Eddie Izzard looks like just like Hutter in the original movie. Like
yeah,
it's so convincing. The makeup and just the costumes and everything. Like it's recreated pretty well.
yeah, it's very impressive. Um, and it's really interesting. Like it's still about making a movie, and it's still about kind of uh, the bad sides of directors at times, or making a movie in general. But we're taking a totally different look at making a movie because now we're looking at making a silent film in 1922, right? And this is a very different approach, right? And it's really interesting to see some of the cool stuff that we get to see here. Is like one of my favorite parts is that uh, uh, F.W. Murnau, who's played by John Malkovich, which is awesome. Um, he's giving like verbal direction during scenes, and I thought that was really cool. And I never really thought about that, but I wonder if they really did that in the silent era. It seems like they
Yeah.
could have.
Oh yeah, definitely. And people will like still do that now, kind of if the set if it if it's a sequence where the sound is not necessary, you know what I mean? If it's like
Mhm.
you're just doing reaction shots or something like that, you can talk over it. I know David Lynch just passed away recently, so on my social media is just flooded with David Lynch things and it's like behind the scenes and all this stuff. But there will be scenes of when he was filming certain scenes and trying to get people's reactions, he would direct them while they're doing it. So it is still like a technique that's used today, but only when sound is not really being recorded and doesn't matter. Whereas in the 20s, you could do it for literally every scene because there was no sound.
Yeah,
So it kind of works. But yeah, there's a lot of cool like aspects to the that filming. Obviously, they're like hand cranking the camera.
yeah.
They're wearing goggles, which I didn't know if that was just because the lights are really bright, maybe. I I wasn't really sure what that was about.
Yeah, it's interesting because I guess it could be that, but then like the actors aren't wearing the goggles, so
They gotta
I,
act.
yeah, that's true.
Suck it up.
Yeah.
That's what the money's for.
um, yeah, that was interesting. I wasn't really sure about that either. But it seems like the movie feels like it's the 20s. Like they do a really good job, like you said, with the costumes, but also just the camera and the sets and everything looks uh just like what I imagined making Nosferatu looked like.
Yeah, 100%. And I do, well, I don't know when I should have probably mentioned this at the top, but this movie is fully available on YouTube. Should I say that? It's fully available on YouTube. I don't know if we want
Yeah.
to. Yeah, whatever. We're not that big of a show anyway. It's not like it's gonna get it taken down. Uh, but as of right now, it's been on. The video was uploaded 2 years ago, and it's still up there. So I don't think we're, you know, say whatever. We're not exposing anything. But yeah, luckily it was able to watch on YouTube in the correct aspect ratio. It was pretty nice quality. However, before I went on YouTube, I tried to rent this on Amazon, and it was the wrong aspect ratio, and I couldn't get my money back or my whatever, and I was pissed. So don't rent this from Amazon. Whatever you do,
Ah,
don't do it. Go find it on YouTube or find it somewhere else. I'm sure it's somewhere else on the internet. You can find it probably a million places because for some reason this movie is pretty hard to find. If it wasn't on YouTube, it would have been pretty difficult to find.
this is amazingly not the first time that you've watched a movie, rented a movie on Amazon and it not been the right aspect ratio. We tried to
Yeah.
watch, was it
Well,
Police Story 2?
it was Police Story 3 Super
3.
Cop, and I think we rented that on Xfinity.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yes. But I think that yeah, it was Police Story 3, but that ended up being a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we've wasted a few bucks on these shitty garbage versions of these movies, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that this movie, I don't know if I haven't looked into like what's up with the rights or the production company or anything, but I'd imagine like someone could have released a Blu-ray of this and probably make some money, right? Like,
I was looking because to be honest, I've been pretty excited about the Nosferatu kick we've been on. And uh so I was hoping, I was like, maybe there is just like a cool physical copy that I could grab somewhere. And yeah, there's no Blu-ray of it that I saw. I don't Blu-ray.com didn't have one, so I
yeah, there might be. Yeah, I don't know. There might be like a foreign one somewhere,
maybe.
but I'm not sure. Um, but then you need a region free player and all that. But yeah, just wanted to mention that. If people are watching, they already kind of watched the movie. I guess we didn't
Yeah.
give a spoiler warning at the top of the episode, but spoiler alert. Hey, spoilers for State and Maid. If you haven't, if you didn't want to know that it was all a fake a fake courtroom. But yeah, also spoilers for this. Although really this you
Mm,
can't really spoil it because
this
it just
movie's 100 years old and you probably just saw the remake. Like
yeah. Well, Shadow of the Vampire also just follows the
yeah,
story of Nosferatu nearly 100%, uh, just with the
exactly.
meta element added to it, but it's pretty much the exact same story. Um, but yeah, anyway, wanted to mention that. But back to the movie, the cast also in this movie is really good. I think that maybe this is a thing where actors want to be in movies that are about movies, right? Like it's kind of about their life and what they're doing. So I could imagine it appealing to a lot of actors. Um, but yeah, I mean, they got John Malkovich playing F.W. Murnau. They got Willem Dafoe playing Vampire Max Shrek. Uh, they have Udo Kier playing Albin Grau, who's the producer and art director, I think.
Mhm.
So that's kind of cool. And also, Carrie Elways is in this, and he plays Fritz Arno Wagner, who comes in as sort of the second uh, cinematographer in the movie. Catherine McCormick, like we said, Eddie Izzard, and I don't know, Aidan Gillette plays Henrik Galeen, who's the original writer. So yeah, it's a pretty stacked cast.
Yeah, and I guess unsurprisingly, because it's such a stacked cast, the acting in this is really great, and at times very reminiscent of Nosferatu, right? When Ellen or when the people playing Ellen and uh, Thomas Hutter are on set, they're doing that very expressive thing that you see in the 20s, right? Um, so
Hmm.
that it was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I generally agree, but honestly, I don't know what Carrie Elway was doing in this movie. When he shows up, I'm like, I know he's supposed to be like the firebrand, like wild card kind of a guy. Sleeps with ladies and he flies airplanes and all that stuff. But like, I don't know what his accent was. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what was going on with that. And I remember Carrie Elway's he's a good actor. He's been in some good stuff, but I remember in Saw also, his accent is kind of all over the place. And I wonder if maybe like I don't know what the budget of this movie was, but I imagine it couldn't have been that big. So I wonder if they just didn't have that many takes for some of these scenes. But yeah, his especially when he's like in a scene with Udo Kier, who's like actually German, and then Carrie Elways is doing this like ridiculous, like cartoony German thing. That kind of felt out of place. But
Yeah. I could definitely see that. Yeah.
yeah, but still, it didn't ruin the movie or anything. He only shows up toward the end anyway. But
Yeah. Pretty much when he shows up, things are already like taken off. Like a few people are already dead. The other cinematographer already had to get sent out, and I think uh Nosferatu kills someone else on the boat set that they get made.
yeah, yeah,
um uh yeah, it was I could definitely see that being annoying, that guy, but I didn't really care too much. I was kind of just anticipating him dying. Uh I kind of
that's
felt
fair.
very like in the slasher mode at that point, kind of, I guess, where like I'm like, oh, the annoying characters are gonna die. And um
Yeah, does he die?
yeah,
The end, he does.
I think at the end in that room when
With a
it's
final
yeah, and it's just Murnau uh
Udo
and
Kier and
Nosferatu left. Yeah, like
yeah,
Nosferatu already attacked everyone. And it's
yeah,
just him that he just keeps filming. I think the other ones are dead.
yeah, yeah. That I think you're right. But yeah,
I certainly
um,
hope so.
yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. What should we get? I mean, I don't know if there's really that much to talk about as far as the story because the story kind of just
Yeah.
follows the basic plot of Nosferatu, and they film the scenes in order, and they're going on location, which was definitely a rare thing in the 20s. But at the beginning, they're filming sort of the domestic scenes and uh, on a soundstage, and Murnau is like, finally, like we're free. We don't have to be in the confined, uh, soundstage. We can shoot in the real world. I thought that was kind of an interesting aspect of probably something that was real from the actual movie.
Yeah, definitely. That was really cool. And even at the beginning, um, like uh, we skip a decent amount of the beginning of Nosferatu because it starts. I think the first scene is like the last set scene, right? The last one on a set, and so and we only see a little bit of it. It's like at the very end, and they cut, and that's when he's like, "Oh, he's so excited and stuff." And it was pretty interesting to just uh, see them cut right to that. But then also, Nosferatu's not in the movie until Hutter goes out anyway. So it was, I think, a good choice to not start with the beginning of Nosferatu. Definitely.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. I will say this movie is set in 1921. The original Nosferatu came out in 1922. And there's a point where I forget exactly what happens, but I think someone maybe Udo Kier or someone is saying that Murnau is one of the best directors in the world. He's up there with D.W. Griffith and Sergei Eisenstein. And Eisenstein hadn't like made a movie yet. Like Strike and Battleship Potemkin are 1925.
Yeah.
So I don't know how he'd know that. But
Premonition.
yeah, exactly. So that was a little like film nerd nitpick that I was like, technically nerd moment.
Yeah.
That's a cinema sin right there. Yeah, that's not
Which is
really
funny.
actually whatever.
Yeah, but it is kind of funny for a movie made about a movie made about the making of a movie is made by a bunch of film nerds, right? Like people making this movie are people that care about the making of movies and all that stuff, right? So you would kind of think that they wouldn't make something like that, but like a
True.
little mistake like that. But I mean,
But
you know what?
also,
Eh,
like, this came out in the year 2000. Internet was a lot less ubiquitous and stuff. It was, you couldn't necessarily just look up, oh, what year did this come out? And it's like make all those little things. So I get it. They just overlooked it a little bit.
yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, I mean, they film all that stuff in Berlin. Actually, an aspect of the movie, they acknowledge that F.W. Murnau was gay or bisexual, I guess. Like at one point, someone asks if he's gonna find a lady that night out at the club or something, and someone's like, or maybe a boy or something like that. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know if I knew that F.W. Murnau was gay. I think we talked about it on our Nosferatu episode,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
but
it's
yeah,
interesting
that
that it
was
was
cool.
acknowledged.
Yeah, it is the year 2000, right? In the other in state and Maine, they say the F slur, so
Oh yeah.
a little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was the year
Yeah,
2000.
but again, like I said, all the characters in that movie are supposed to be scumbags.
Yes, exactly. But just a different tiny piece of queer how queer representation is in these movies.
Yeah. Yeah, and
um,
I mean, I don't know if it's my place to say, but like everyone kind of acts kind of gay. Like Udo Kier, like everyone just seems, I don't know if they're just German or European or oh they're
it's the 20s.
it's the 20 they're actors and artists in the 20s, and it's pre-Nazis, it's free living and free loving and all that. But they just kind of seem like pretty gay.
The
So
Hayes
I don't
Code
know
isn't
if,
out yet.
yeah, no Hays Code, no Hitler.
I think even in America before the Hayes Code, I feel like just like actors and like all of like cinema just kind of felt more like open in that way, in a way of like kind of being like sexually fluid. Uh I don't know, like obviously not every movie felt like that, but I feel like um I think the Hayes Code definitely hurt just normal interaction in cinema that might seem kind of a little queer now, you know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But definitely, yeah, I could see that. But
um
yeah, I mean, but they're in Berlin, and then they go on a train to film the scenes sort of while Hutter is on his way to the castle. And uh, during the train sequence, Murnau has like a really cool speech about like the power of cinema, basically. I thought that was pretty cool. I like that speech, but it is interesting that it's like this guy, I don't like he's a bad person in the movie. Like he's
yeah.
like he hires a vampire and he's like, yeah, you can just like kill my actress at the end, like as long as we make the movie, like I don't give a fuck. And then but he kind of gives this very nice speech. But outside of the context of this character being a completely awful murderer, basically, it is kind of a nice speech about how movies are cool.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it is kind of funny because they make him out to be obviously the villain who like agrees to let everyone die, but then also like do sort of pay homage to him being kind of this brilliant filmmaker at the time, with that speech. And also later on he says that quote that we said at the top, if it's not in the frame, it doesn't exist, which I think I thought was a Hitchcock quote, but I'm not really sure. But definitely like I think a filmy quote, right? Something uh, kind of powerful in film. So,
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
yeah. I mean, yeah, and they're there in the inn, and they're warned by the lady at the inn to like not take down the crosses, and sort of the same thing that happens in Nosferatu, the warning not to continue.
Yeah, which is pretty hilarious because thinking about the movie Nosferatu having that in it, but then this movie that's like that's told to them. So and then yeah, it's very meta in a way. Um,
Yeah.
but also real quick jumping back just because I thought this was a funny thing that I forgot to mention is the opening, they have like intertitles in this movie, and
Oh
there's some
yeah.
at the opening, and the ones at the opening are interesting because there's one that says that Murnau made the most realistic vampire movie of its time or something. which I think is kind of funny because it's the first vampire movie. There's
Yeah, I
no,
think so.
there's nothing to compare it to. But and then it also says Murnau asked the estate uh, permission to use Dracula, and I don't think that's true. I don't think they actually asked. Um, I don't think they asked. I don't think they were denied. They just did it and then were sued. Um,
Huh.
but so
Yeah,
funny intro there.
yeah, I think the movie does, take some
Yeah,
liberties with stuff like that. And I wonder if it was made today, if they would have been more uh specific about researching that kind of stuff, just because it's so much easier to do research now.
yeah. Like
But
you said with the internet, right? Like
yeah,
we can find that out because we made an episode on Nosferatu because we have Wikipedia and IMDb and all these things nowadays. But yeah, if we were making a podcast about Nosferatu in the year 2000, we probably wouldn't know any of the half the stuff we could have talked about. So
yeah,
we'd
yeah,
have to
it's
go to a
true.
library.
Come on, get him out of here. But yeah,
Yeah, but I did think
it's
it was cool. They had intertitles every once in a while. They happened, and that was a fun little callback to
yeah,
silent film, of course.
filming. Yes. Also, we like libraries. That was
Yes,
a joke.
that was a joke. Yeah,
That was a
we do.
joke. Libraries are good.
Great
Anyway,
place to, by the way, get physical media.
yeah, true. Yeah.
Perhaps if your library might have an old DVD of Shadow the Vampire.
Yeah, that might be one of the easiest ways to find it, to be honest. I don't, it might
Yeah,
be better than anything else. If the YouTube video gets taken down after
after
this
we.
episode, after I snitched on him. Um but yeah, I mean, pretty soon after this, uh they see Max Shrek, and he like films the scene uh where Wangenheim sees Shrek for the first time, and he is like actually freaked out. You know what I mean? And I thought that was kind of a cool part of the movie, of something that he would do to get that genuine reaction out of him.
Yeah. Also, that was actually a pretty spooky scene. I feel like there was like a really low music and you could kind of hear a heartbeat, but overall it was like a really quiet scene. Like there was no verbal direction that you get from most of the movie, and it felt like sincerely kind of creepy to me. So I enjoyed that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. There's something in this movie, like I feel like the tone of it was a kind of like I wasn't really clear what the tone was throughout, and also like what genre this was supposed to be.
Yeah,
Because it's like not really a horror movie. It's also not really a drama. It's not really a comedy, but it's kind of all three.
yeah, it
And it's
totally
kind of
kind of
strange.
is. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel the same. It's like it's kind of all of them, but also none of those three. And I feel like to me it works, but I could see that the tone, especially as like that scene feels much more dramatic and horror centered than some scenes when it's very comedic and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I would say the tone definitely shifts, but
Yeah. And I did like some of the comedy, like there's filming the contract scene. And uh Willem Dafoe, Max Schreck sees the locket of Greta, the actress, and he recognizes her because he wants to, have sex with her and suck her blood at the end of the filming. And he says she has a beautiful bosom. And I just thought it was funny that he said
yeah,
that. And,
yeah,
like there were kind of a few moments of like that kind of comedy that I did like. Not necessarily that kind of comedy, but just comedic moment. Yeah, it's not like there was a lot of boob jokes in the movie. There weren't. But yeah, I don't know. I liked that, but then I don't know. Pretty soon after that, he like freaks out and like bites a guy like right while they're filming. And I don't know. Some things work better than others in this movie, I guess. I don't know.
yeah. I could totally see that if they kind of maybe centered in more on one or two of those genre tone things, it would have maybe worked a little bit better. Because it does feel like a harsh shift at times. That just comparing it to State and Maine, I don't think it felt as jarring when like the comedy and drama were were clashing. Not that they clashed really, but like in this, it kind of does clash. So
Yeah. And I feel like in State and Main, there's like a million things going on, so your attention is always grabbed. But in this one, it just kind of follows the same plot as Nosferatu, so you kind of know what's going to happen, and there's not that many like complications. I kind of wish there was a little more like backstage drama, maybe, or like something else, because I kind of just felt like the movie was just slowly going, progressing to where I knew it was going to go, kind of a thing.
mm-hmm.
I wish there was a little bit more going on with some of the side characters, like Udo Kier playing the producer slash production designer. Like his character doesn't have that much to do. Like he kind of just, I don't know, he's kind of just around, and I don't know. I kind of
Yeah.
wish I maybe I don't know. I kind of wish maybe the plot had a little more going on, or maybe the atmosphere was more effective for me, because I didn't really feel scared necessarily, but or creeped out or anything by anything that was going on. Um, and the way they light like Max Shrek, he's not like creepy necessarily. You know what I mean? Like he's not always in shadow, or like you don't know where he is. Like they kind of demystify him. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it takes away anything of him being creepy. Um, so I don't know. It just kind of felt like in the middle for me. And I kind of just wish there's a little more of something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally feel that. I think I think that I like that one scene that I thought was kind of creepy. It's before you actually see Max Shriek and he is in the shadow. And I thought that that's really the only part that actually I felt kind of creepy. I feel like the rest of the movie, there's not a whole lot of horror. The only other time when the like pretty much everyone, I guess, that was left at this point went down, other than Murnau, went down into the like catacombs where Nosferatu's coffin was, and they flip it open and he's not in there, and they're all chatting and one of them's trying to convince everyone. I think Galeen might be trying to convince everyone that he's actually a vampire, and everyone's like, whatever. I was expecting like there's this shot of um who was it? It wasn't Galeen, so it was either the cinematographer or the production assistant. But one of them was at like this archway, right? That was just barely kind of big enough for them, right? Like, but you see a lot of shadow behind them. It's really dark, and so I was kind of expecting like maybe for them to get attacked or something, and for it to like diverge a little bit from the plot, and then it didn't, and I was kind of disappointed. I think the ending was interesting with what they did with Murnau particularly, but
Yeah.
obviously I don't think the plot was particularly interesting or novel because it I've seen this twice now in the past
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I do think one of my favorite scenes might have been when Henrik Galeen and Albin Grau are drinking, and Max Shrek like joins them to
Yeah.
to drink, and they're sort of, you know, Shrek is like talking about, oh, how Dracula would be so lonely, and how, all this kind of stuff, because he's actually speaking truthfully, but then they kind of just think he's method acting.
Hmm.
Also, I don't know that method acting existed at this time. I I feel like it was, I don't know. I shouldn't talk out of turn if I don't know necessarily, but I feel like it was a thing that kind of cropped up in like the 40s and 50s. I forget it. I don't know. I'm not a total expert on all those kind of things. I forget the name of the person who created it, but anyway, that's sort of the whole thing where they're like, oh, he's going to be method act. They don't say method acting, I don't think, but he's going to be in character the whole time. Um, so they think he's just playing his character, and but also it reveals that in this universe, he can't turn people into vampires. He
Right.
uh he just kills them, I guess, sucks their blood and kills them. But then
Yeah.
he like eats a bat,
Yeah.
and at one point, one of them says, "The German theater needs you." And what an actor, dedication, and just
Yeah.
like the quotes like that, and the comedy, I think I appreciated, but I just felt like a little bit, I don't know, just few and far between.
Yeah, I agree. That was probably my favorite part of the movie also because it was just so different than the rest where he's actually interacting with people. And I feel like that's maybe what's missing from some of the movie where uh Nosferatu or whatever you want to call him really just like is just not there because he's hiding, right? And that's like the whole point. Or he's on set and we already know what he's going to do because he's on set. And so that's like one time when it really diverges from the plot of the original movie. And it was just cool to see that. And also to get a little bit of backstory. Yeah, I thought the fact that, like he says that he can't turn anyone because he's too old. And then he says, actually, I don't know if I ever could. Right. And he says like stuff like that. And it's just really interesting to get into that mind and think about what the world of Nosferatu vampires are really like. Right. Because we even talked a little about this with the original one. There's really not a lot revealed. And then or I think there's maybe some more occult stuff about like a curse or something. But then in the new Nosferatu, we actually see another vampire, right? Like in Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, they impale a vampire when Hutter's in the village. So kind of interesting to think like, it would be really cool to learn more about Shadow the Vampire's world. But
Yeah.
we didn't get a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, that's where my favorite vampire movie, Only Lovers Left Alive, that's where it comes in of showing sort of the everyday life of these people of like playing music and listening to records and like all that kind of stuff and kind of interesting to see that. Um, but yeah, I mean it kind of is like what does just a day look like for this vampire? I feel like it kind of begs the question
Yeah.
because it kind of he's not this mystical thing always in the shadows. Um, but yeah, I mean, a lot of great quotes in this movie. I have written down one, and this is
Ooh.
also where I felt like Albin Grau, played by Udo Kier, was definitely seemed said coded to be gay. I don't know if the guy was in real life. I have no idea. But when they're filming that last scene, Greta shows up and he says, "Greta, did you put on this makeup with a broom?" Like he like the way he like criticizes her makeup like was just really funny. Um, but yeah, like I don't know. I just wish there was more comedy to it. Not
Yeah.
necessarily broader comedy, because I like the when there are those comedic moments, I think it works. It just feels like a lot of scenes, the tone is sort of blah. But for me,
Yeah. I definitely feel that. And I think that like what the movie does really well is in part like calling back to the original Nosferatu. Like I think they even do like iris shots. Even Murnau even like says like uh, iris
uh,
shot in or something, right? Or
yeah,
iris in or something.
yeah,
And so that was like it's really cool I think to see this having seen the original. But then again, there's also that downside of you've seen the original and the plot doesn't diverge really a whole lot other than the fact that of course the vampire's real. But if you're watching the movie, the vampire's also real, right? Like that's the whole
yeah,
point in the movie.
yeah, yeah,
So I don't know.
yeah. But yeah, I mean the last scene is pretty cool. I did like the ending and the last I mean, there's the if it's not in the frame, it doesn't exist. And at the end, he says, "Thank you. I think we have it." Sort of
Yeah.
him continuing to film while uh, Shrek kills Greta, Grau, and Carrie Elway's character,
Yeah.
Wolfgang, whatever. I think that was his name. But you know, he kills them, and Murnau doesn't give a fuck. He just keeps on filming, and eventually they open the gate or whatever and let the sunlight in. And does he? Oh, I guess the film like kind of melts. We get like that film melting effect, and then do
Mhm.
we see him like exactly how he dies?
I think we see no, I think we see Nosferatu like starting to light up a little bit, and then
Yeah.
that's when the film melts, and then I don't think we ever see him again.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but and there was some cool shots here though of like just the passion that Murnau had as he was filming like this grotesque scene to finish his movie, and
Yeah.
even some shots of like a shot of the lens, like and then it would push in a little bit to the actual lens, and you'd see like reflections of the bed and stuff, and it was hard to make out, but it was interesting to see that. Um, so I really enjoyed. I think the last scene uh was cool. Again, it's one of these times when you actually do diverge from the Nosferatu plot, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the best part of the movie.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think his character is interesting, Murnau's character. Uh, it reminded me of also the director and actor who made the 79 Nosferatu the Vampire, Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski, because Herzog would kind of famously or infamously would kind of do anything to make his movies. He had people pull a boat over a mountain in order to make a movie, which is part of the plot of the movie, but also he did it for real. Like he's a crazy, and that kind of crazy dedicated filmmaker is kind of romanticized, but also, I don't know, also kind of not a good thing either. You know what I mean? Like looking at the way like Stanley Kubrick, for example, would like manipulate his actors and sometimes and stuff like that. I think that type of thing is definitely less romanticized nowadays than it was in the past, which is a good thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, this kind of felt like what it must have been like to be on the 79 movie because Klaus Kinski's a fucking psycho. Like Scott,
Yeah.
like well, he's also a horrible person, but just a crazy person. And then to have a crazy director who's, you know, uh, anyway, go watch.
Yeah.
There's documentaries about them and stuff like that, and you can watch it. And it's pretty interesting. They're
Yeah.
interesting part of film history. But
They
yeah,
also
it's kind of
bleached
a
rats, right?
yeah. I think
Yeah.
I believe that happened in the Nosferatu the Vampire on set, and yeah, so yep. But yeah, I feel like that's an archetype of movies is the director who will do anything to get what he wants. And it happens in State and Maine too, where he would defend a statutory rapist to get his movie made. And
Yeah.
F.W. Murnau was, well, his character, not the real guy, but this character in this movie would send his actress and crew to death basically in order to film this vampire.
Yeah. Also, one side note that's just a funny thing about this movie or talking about this movie that I've noticed as we're talking is there's so many ways to refer to these characters
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
like
sorry. It's
no it's we can refer to Murnau as Murnau or as I guess Murnau is actually the fewest things you can call him, but like Nosferatu, you can call Nosferatu or Count Orlok or Willem Dafoe or Max Shriek, and all those are right. Like it's just,
yeah.
there's too many. I think Wangerheim you were calling for the whole time. You might have been calling him that, and I was calling him Hutter or Thomas or something.
Yeah,
But we
yeah.
also could have been calling him who was it that was playing him? Was that
Eddie Izzard.
Eddie? Oh, Eddie Izzard.
Yeah,
But
but if I mean, if
yeah.
your name is von Wangenheim, I'm gonna call you Wangenheim because you're Wangenheim. I mean, come on, what other opportunity am I gonna have to say Wangenheim so many times?
Yeah, no, there's not a lot. I mean, these movies are like it. So
Yeah.
after
So
this,
shout
you're
out,
you're a freak if you do that.
yeah, shout out to Friedrich von Wangenheim or whatever his name is.
Gustav.
Um, Gustav von Wangenheim.
You're
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
of I think Frederick is everyone
FW.
calls FW Frederick in this, which is funny because um I think when we watched the first Nosferatu, I didn't realize his name was Frederick, and then watching Nosferatu Eggers' Nosferatu, somebody in there is named Frederick, and I realized the connection
Hmm.
there. But
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, it that does make sense. Who's gonna call you FW in person?
yeah,
Right.
that'd be
And
weird.
yeah, but it is interesting, like from our perspective, just like Terrence Malick. I'm like, oh, that's Terrence Malick. That's what his name is. But then everyone who has ever worked with him is like, oh, that's Terry. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, Terry. Okay, well, I guess you're on a nickname basis with him. I'm just a fan.
Right.
So
Totally.
he's FW to me, and not Friedrich.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Um,
mean, is there anything else you wanted to mention about the movie?
no, no, I think that's really it for me.
All right, cool. Well, that's been the episode, everyone. No, I'm just kidding. We have a few more things. We have a few more
Although
things to get through.
we also should do our readings for this one, but
Yes.
real quick, the like general consensus is always interesting to look at, of course, and it has kind of an interesting similar consensus as State and Maine, which is 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, 74% audience score, 6.9 on IMDb, and 3.5 on Letterboxd, which is like
Very
almost
similar.
almost identical, averaging up to 7.375 compared to State and Maine's 7.3. So might be like the closest average rating on two movies we've done at once.
Yeah,
Um,
what a weird connection. Same year, same rating on Letterboxd, same like sort of topic, but such
yeah,
different movies.
yeah, it's kind of astonishing that we picked such an, and also neither of us knew that this was a Nick Cage connection until we
Yeah.
did it.
Yep.
Um,
So there we go. My rating would be 3 out of 5. That's what I gave it.
nice.
I thought it was pretty good, but I kind of wanted a little bit more out of it. But still an interesting movie and worth watching for fans of Nosferatu and vampires in general, I think.
I completely agree, and I also gave it three. So both these were 3 stars for me. Um, yeah, I
Nice.
agree. I think I was expecting or hoping for a little bit more, and I kind of just wish it diverged a little bit more from the plot because I think one of its big strengths is that it appeals to people that have seen the first or the original, in a lot of ways, but then it also doesn't give you enough new stuff. So
Yeah, 100%. I agree. But yeah,
wow,
I guess
cool.
that's that. I feel like we made pretty good time on this episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, a 3 out of 5 movies we probably have less to say about. Although we talked a bit about State and Maine, but
Yeah. I think that just happens, right? Like sometimes we end up with movies that we have to talk about for a while, and then sometimes we just don't. Or I think often too, if we agree on a lot of stuff, like in this case, I think both these movies we pretty much aligned on most stuff,
yeah,
par a few things. But this just it's agreeing is less interesting than
yeah,
stating different things, right? So
yeah. Well, basically, I hated them both. Half a star, trash. No,
yeah,
just to
now we're
make the
talking.
episode more interesting. You give them 5 stars, I'll give them a half. We'll rig it.
That's right. I mean,
Um,
that's how you guys know that we're not rigging these. We're
yeah.
sometimes we're pretty boring to listen to, maybe.
No, this was a good episode. We had plenty to say.
Yeah,
We had plenty to say. But all right. Well, so before we get into our next topic, we don't exactly have something locked down for episode 10.5 right now. We kind of want to do something new that's in theaters. So we might do presents or wait, yeah, 10.5. Yeah, that'll be yeah. Sorry, this is 10. I get confused. So
yeah,
so for 10.5, we might do Presents, the new Steven Soderbergh movie. We also might do Companion. Or we might do something like Nickel Boys or something. Who knows? Maybe we'll do The Brutalist. I don't know. We're gonna figure it out and we'll have it for you next week. But keep an eye out on our Instagram or our Letterboxd, and normally we update it and go to our letterbox, type in Mind Your Movies, all one word, will pop up. Follow us and
of course.
check our lists. And we have a list of all the movies we've covered. And if you go to the bottom, normally we have the upcoming movies at the end there. So that's how you can keep track of what we're doing next. And then now we can pick our topic for episode 11.
This is my favorite part. This is awesome.
Yeah,
And
this is like you don't know what's coming next,
that's
it's the
right.
mystery.
It's a little special
Uh,
treat,
I still have the cup. I have it on camera, so everyone knows I'm not cheating. Close my eyes.
I love that this is still the same cup.
Same
we've
cup.
we've done 10 now of these longer episodes where you have the cup, and yeah.
Interesting. This
Uh-oh.
topic is features magic.
Features magic.
Magic
Interesting.
movies.
Magic movies.
Movies
Uh
about magic.
Magic Mike.
Uh, I don't know if that counts as magic. That's like dick magic or something. That's a different kind of magic. Uh, yeah, I don't know. Mad movies about magic or
Interesting. So
that
this is, I'm
have
thinking
ma
of like fantasy stuff, I suppose. Either
oh, interesting.
fantasy
Yeah,
like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings stuff, or something along the lines of like witches, maybe. I don't know. That's where my brain's going right away.
that makes sense. The first thing I thought of was Now You See Me, which I will not be picking.
Yeah. I just
And
watched those. Please don't.
all right, now you see me and now you don't. No, I will absolutely not be picking
Isn't that crazy too? The second one's called Now You See Me Too, not Now You
Yeah,
Don't. Come
yeah. I think
on.
we talked about that on our maybe our first
Yeah,
ever episode
that's
about
right.
how they fucked that up.
They did.
Crazy.
Honestly, my first thought is like Hocus Pocus.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know. I'm thinking of like uh just goofy magic, I guess right now is where my brain's going.
I haven't Hocus Pocus. I haven't seen that since I was a kid, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, honestly, not a lot comes to mind right away.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe we have to do some research and we'll
yeah,
we'll cut and you won't even anyone listening won't even notice.
exactly. Easy.
See you on the other side. Oh, the Prestige.
Oh yeah.
That's one. Oh, the
Ooh.
Witch.
Ooh.
Have we done?
Oh
No, we haven't
man.
done the Witch.
No. Although we've done the lighthouse, we've done Nosferatu. We could do the witch and then at some point do the
The
Northman.
Northman, yeah. We
Um
could do The Craft. Have you ever seen that movie?
no, the craft.
All
Interesting.
right, there are some good stuff. I mean, we could do Pan's Labyrinth and My Neighbor Totoro. It'd be
Ooh.
kids that go into a magical other realm to escape
Whoa.
their awful reality.
That would be a pretty hype episode. Hmm.
Have you seen Ponyo?
No, I haven't.
Me neither.
I've seen obviously like the poster and I've seen it a lot around, but I haven't
Yeah,
watched it.
I think Ponyo has magic in it. Let's see. What about like Donnie Darko? Is that magic?
That is, oh man, who knows? Well, we're coming back with our final thoughts. Shane, what are you picking for this one about magic?
I'm picking one of the last Miyazaki movies that I've yet to see, Ponyo, 2008. It's streaming on Max in the US. Uh, and yeah, it's one of the last ones I haven't seen yet. My Neighbor Totoro is my favorite, and that would totally work. But I kind of wanted to try out a new one. So going with Ponyo.
Awesome, I'm excited for that. And I'm picking Wizards, a Ralph Bakshi movie from 1977 that I don't know much about, but looks kind of cool. It's an hour and 20 minutes, which is actually not why I picked it.
Yeah, sure.
But
Also, this is hilarious. 2 episodes ago, we chose movies we didn't hadn't seen before, and we were like, "Ah, we should never do this again." And now we've done it 2 times in a row. We keep picking movies we've never seen yet before.
that's
And
true.
it's part of the fun though.
Yeah, it
It's part of
is.
the fun. And you know what? If we hate it, then it is what it is. I think
Yeah,
there will be plenty to talk about in these movies.
yeah. I think that's the thing. I think with uh 2 episodes ago, those movies, not even that there wasn't a lot, I mean, there was a decent amount to talk about, but yeah, whatever. I'm feeling more confident. But yeah, this
Also,
is
that was
available. Oh, sorry.
when we did college movies, that was a tough topic.
Yeah, it
We
is.
struggled to find things, which was
Yeah,
surprising.
we spent you'll only see a few clips of us chatting about this one, but this was maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15. When we did that one, when we were doing college movies, it took
That was a
us
while.
25 minutes or maybe even more to find things.
Maybe, I don't know.
It
Yeah,
was a
it took a
long
while.
while. But this Wizards movie, the Ralph Bakshi movie, is streaming, is rentable in a few places: Apple TV, what used to be Vudu, YouTube, etc. It's also potentially publicly available in some places, so search around if you want to keep up with us.
Yeah. So there we go. Our movies are set for episode 11, which will be magic movies, I guess we could call it.
And that title will be,
Oh,
we've got Wizards.
Wanyo. Wanyo
Wanyo, that's so easy.
or Pizzards.
No.
Pon Yizzards. I like Pon Yizzards.
We had such a good one. Just go with Wanyo.
Wanyo. What about Pon Yizzards? I don't know. Wanyo is pretty good though.
Or we could do Wizio. No, wait, that's
Nah, Wizardanios? No,
Wiz
Wanyo. I kind of like Ponyizards.
Ponyo Ponyozards? No,
Ponyizards.
Ponyozards. I'm down for Ponyozards. It's not the worst.
Let's do Wanyo. Let's do Wanyo. It rolls off
Wanyo.
the
It's
tongue
it's right
better.
away. Yeah,
Yeah,
Wanyo.
it rolls off the tongue. It's nice. Wanyo. All right, Wanyo.
We get one letter from Wizards.
Hey, we only get 4 from Ponyo. That's 80% though. So take that, Ralph Bakshi. Also, both animated.
Yeah, this will be cool.
Also, there we go. Animation. They'll probably take advantage of the animated form to animate magic. There you go. Easier to
Easy.
draw magic than it is to depict it in real life, I guess. Anyway, then we'll talk about that next week.
That's
But
right.
yeah, that's the
Well,
episode.
a couple weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Next week we have a mystery movie, and then in 2 weeks we'll do Wanyo.
Awesome.
And
So don't forget to keep up with us in all the places that you want to and can. If you go to our letterbox, again, just search Mind Your Movies, all one word. You'll find us there. And we have links to everything else, our Instagram, our YouTube, all of our different streaming sites for the podcast itself. Yeah. And also don't forget, just throw us a comment or, a 5-star would be cool if you want to.
yeah, it's really easy. If you're on like Apple Podcasts, it's really easy to rate 5 stars. So it's pretty simple. But yeah, cool. All right.
It's never been easier. You just tap a button.
Yeah, true. It has never been easier. Scroll to the bottom and tap the 5-star. Yeah.
Anyways,
All right, well,
that's all we got for this one.
cool. Bye everyone.